по аэродрому. И попали. Кто стрелял?
Уже штук 20 пролетіло.
Russia claims to have destroyed 83 Ukrainian military outposts. They've launched a three-pronged assault from the east, north, and south.
Now, this all started moments after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that he had decided to conduct a special military operation.
База взорвалась. Ракета одна за одной.
Huge explosions woke everyone in Kiev as the Russian mission continues. Fiery debris falling onto residential buildings below.
Columns of tanks have been seen entering the city. And horrific cell phone footage showed a tank crushing a car.
There is a historic war coming to the earth. I have seen a terrible war coming to the earth. There was a lot of smoke and bombing and deaths. In that war, there was big bombings and a lot of smoke and a lot of gunfire. A lot of war, a lot of gunfire, a lot of missiles, attack helicopters, the strike aircrafts, and it was just unbelievable.
Russian forces have attacked oil and gas facilities, sparking huge explosions on the fourth day of its land, air and sea invasion of Ukraine. Troops are trying to take over the Vasilkiv air base. That's 40 kilometers southwest of Kiev. An oil depot there is on fire after being hit by a Russian missile.
This is an area that has a large military airfield and multiple fuel tanks. The mayor of the town where this happened, about 18 miles from the center of the capital, says a petroleum storage depot was hit. And here's new video closer to the scene. Quoting from the mayor now, "The enemy wants to destroy everything around." The mayor adding, "The night will be difficult here as well in Kyiv."
Now, on the outskirts of Kiev, a major fire has broken out after Russian missiles hit an oil terminal. Huge flames have been lighting up the night sky in the town of Vasilkiv, which lies some 40 kilometers south of the capital.
For a fourth night, Russia waged war on its neighbour. This is an oil depot near an airstrip to the south of Kiev, with toxic smoke filling the air.
In that war, there was big bombings and a lot of smoke. And a lot of smoke. And a lot of smoke. In that war, there was big bombings and a lot of smoke. There was a lot of smoke and bombing.
War has returned to Europe. In the early hours of Thursday, Russian tanks and troops rolled across the border in a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Just moments after their president, Vladimir Putin, announced on television he would launch a so-called special military operation. That operation's prompted a chorus of condemnation and vows to hold the Kremlin accountable. But when it comes to defending the nation under attack, NATO has made it clear Ukraine is on its own.
This 24th of February is a terrible day for Ukraine and a dark day for Europe.
It is President Putin who is bringing war back to Europe.
I'm addressing you, the Russian people, as a Ukrainian citizen. We are separated by a border stretching more than 2,000 kilometers. And right now, there are 200,000 of your soldiers there, and this could mark the start of a major war on the European continent.
One state that is responsible for what is happening now in Ukraine, and that is Russia.
The European Union and its people stand by Ukraine and its people.
There is no justification for all this. This is Putin's war.
Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
There is a historic war coming to the earth, a terrible war coming to the earth. I saw the special operation forces in attack. There was a lot of smoke and bombing and deaths. I saw a lot of war, a lot of gunfire.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Exclusively witnessed a confrontation today at an airfield outside Kyiv. Tell us what happened and what it tells you about Ukraine's chances of keeping control of its own capital.
Yeah, I mean, it was astonishing, but it was unexpected as well, because we were making our way to an airfield near the capital, Kiev, just on the outskirts of it, that had been attacked. We knew there had been fighting there over the course of the previous hours. It's an essential airbase that the Russian special forces, we understood, had been dropped there to seize in order to establish a bridgehead so they could bring in more forces. So we went there. There was a checkpoint at the gates. I was told by Ukrainian officials that the Ukrainians had it back under control after fierce fighting. And I spent some time talking with the soldiers outside, saying, who is it that's in control right now? I said to the commanding officer in my broken Russian. And he said, it's the Russians that are in control. And I said, okay, so where are the Russians then? And he said, we're the Russians, which was incredible, because we thought they were Ukrainian forces. I looked at their insignia and suddenly realized that, we had stumbled upon and we'd encountered that forward group of Russian special forces that had been put into that base just a few hours before by helicopter, had engaged in fierce fighting, and were now facing a counterattack from the Ukrainian military. At that point, we stepped away and witnessed this.
Keep inside, in here, against the
How
wall.
can I find
Focus. Should we run that way? We've got to be mindful for the driver as well, okay? Let's move down this way against the wall. Down.
I need to check
Keep down, keep down, keep down.
I need to check my feet.
It's okay, keep chill.
Назад мене здамо. Твою мать! Давай, виходь, давай! Ба! Голову, да? Ракор сила! Прямо голову, да? Все цело! Целое, блядь, целое, вот, держи! Голову, да? Голову, да?
There is a historic war coming to the earth. A historic war, a terrible war coming to the earth. Big bombings and a lot of smoke. There was a lot of smoke and bombing and deaths.
A ruthless attack on Ukraine's second largest city. Russia accused of using cluster munitions on a residential area of Kharkiv, home to 1.5 million people, 6 hours east of Kiev, the latest onslaught of the Russian invasion. Buildings set alight, homes obliterated, missiles pepper the city, sticking out of the dirt near a playground and lodged in the kitchen in the centre of an apartment complex.
Russia's assault on Ukraine is intensifying. This is Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine. And other footage raises questions about Russia's conduct. This attack may have been a cluster bomb. They're banned by many countries, though not by Russia or Ukraine. But Boris Johnson is clear on what we're seeing.
Vladimir Putin is prepared to use barbaric and indiscriminate tactics against innocent civilians.
Ukraine has accused Russia of using thermobaric weapons, also known as vacuum bombs, during its offensive. Vacuum bombs suck oxygen in from air to produce a high-temperature explosion that can vaporize human bodies. The blast wave these bombs create lasts significantly longer than conventional explosives.
An enormous explosion in Ukraine's second city region has been captured in chilling video footage. The blast is understood to have struck Chugev airfield in the Kharkiv region. In multiple clips of the incident shared on social media, a mammoth bright orange blast wave, which hangs in the air, is seen erupting over the night sky. It comes after the Ukrainian ambassador to the US Oksana Markarova said yesterday the Kremlin had used the devastating bombs, banned by the Geneva Convention, during airstrikes. Thermobaric or vacuum explosives, dubbed the father of all bombs, suck oxygen from the surrounding air to generate high-temperature explosions. They can vaporize a human body and were first developed by the Soviet Union and the US in the 1960s.
Other Russian attacks include this in the northeastern town of Oktyrka. Ukraine says 70 soldiers died and makes this claim.
They used the vacuum bomb today, which is actually prohibited by Geneva Convention.
Vacuum bombs ignite a fireball that sucks in all surrounding oxygen. They're a thermobaric weapon whose use is condemned by the international community. This is verified footage of an airstrike on Friday. Now the city is encircled. To hold it under siege would be a war crime. But even if a war crime has been committed, justice is a long road. It could come via the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Its prosecutor says, "I am satisfied that there's reasonable basis to believe that both alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity have been committed in Ukraine."
Our goal is to protect the Russian Federation from military threats from the Western states, which are trying to use Ukrainians in the fight against our country. I would like to emphasize that we only strike military targets and only with high-precision weapons. The Ukrainian side does not shy away from using peaceful civilians as a human shield.
Over the weekend, the Russian leader putting his nuclear deterrent forces on high alert for the first time in nearly 50 years, claiming NATO countries were making aggressive statements against Russia.
Что понимание того, чем это чревато и чем это грозит для всех. Сейчас мы слышим, что нужно сделать бесполетную зону на территории Украины. Сделать это невозможно на самой территории Украины. Можно только с территории каких-то соседних государств. Но любое движение в этом направлении будет нами рассматриваться как участие в вооруженном конфликте той страны, с территории которой будут создаваться угрозы для наших военнослужащих. Мы в эту же секунду будем рассматривать их как участниками военного конфликта. И уже все равно, какими там членами они являются.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has issued a chilling warning that any impending world war will become nuclear and destructive.
На выходных днях семья президента Путина была эвакуирована в специальный бункер, подготовленный на случай ядерной войны. Этот бункер находится на территории Республики Алтай. Это на самом деле не бункер, а это целый подземный город, оборудованный по последнему слову науки и техники. Я надеюсь, вам это о чем-то говорит, если президент отправляет свою семью в этот бункер.
There is a historic war coming to the earth. I have seen a terrible war coming to the earth. There was a lot of smoke and bombing and deaths. Big bombings and a lot of smoke and a lot of gunfire. A lot of war, a lot of gunfire, a lot of missiles, attack helicopters, they strike aircrafts, and it was just unbelievable.
Kiev this morning is staring down the barrel of a Russian assault column that's reportedly up to 40 miles long. Satellite images confirm it's big, deadly, and dangerous, with hundreds of armored vehicles, tanks, and towed artillery, and that it's heading toward the capital of 3 million people. Russia seems to be changing tactics. So far, Russia has been using small group attacks with incursions into towns and cities, which the Ukrainian military has been able to repel with brave and determined resistance. What's coming looks more like old, blunt Russian siege warfare. It's already happening outside of Kiev, with Russian forces attacking Mariupol in the south, home to 500,000 people, with tragic consequences and disturbing images emerging.
Satellite images show a Russian military convoy getting closer to Kyiv from the north. The head of the convoy most recently observed at an airport fewer than 20 miles from the city center.
Yeah, very sobering images that are coming out this morning, giving an indication of the might of the Russian forces that are amassed just north of the capital, Kiev, and still heading down there. Those images show what we believe was a main armoured division yesterday that was certainly a few miles long. It's now put at more than 40 miles long.
The fighter aircrafts,
Hata hivyo niliona zile ndege za kivita,
those Alpha Strike aircraft, they're called Alpha Strike aircrafts.
zile ndege speciali kabisa za kivita,
The ones that strike, they go fast into the enemy territory.
zile ambazo zinapiga zinaenda kwa haraka kabisa katika eneo la adui.
Even those pilots, they go on what we call suicidal missions.
Hata wale marubani wanaenda katika misheni ambazo zinaitwa misheni za kujiua,
Because they are the ones who go normally and knock down the anti-aircraft missiles and all of them, the batteries, wherever they are. First of all, disarm them, knock them down.
kwa sababu hao ndio ambao wanaenda na kutegua yale makombora ya kivita.
The anti-aircraft missiles and the batteries, wherever they are located, they are the ones that know them and they go and knock them out first before the other fleet now come.
Zile wao ndio ambao wanategua zile ndege ambazo ni za makombora. Hao ndio ambao wanaenda na kuzitegua kabisa kabla zije.
This is an ABC News special report.
Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the largest invasion of a neighboring country in Europe since World War II. The Russian military attacking from the south, the north, the east, taking out military installations and moving closer tonight on strategic cities.
We saw fighter jets flying over the city this morning as emergency air raid sirens wailed.
I have seen a terrible war coming to the earth.
Lakini nimeona vita kali kabisa ambalo linakuja duniani.
In fact, I saw the fighter aircrafts,
Hata hivyo niliona zile ndege za kivita,
those Alpha Strike aircraft, they're called Alpha Strike aircrafts.
zile ndege speciali kabisa za kivita,
The ones that strike, they go fast into the enemy territory.
zile ambazo zinapiga zinaenda kwa haraka kabisa katika eneo la adui.
Even those pilots, they go on what we call suicidal missions.
Hata wale marubani wanaenda katika misheni ambazo zinaitwa misheni za kujiua,
Because they are the ones who go normally and knock down the anti-aircraft missiles and all of them, the batteries, wherever they are. First of all, disarm them, knock them down.
kwa sababu hao ndio ambao wanaenda na kutegua yale makombora ya kivita.
The anti-aircraft missiles and the batteries, wherever they are located, they are the ones that know them and they go and knock them out first before the other fleet now come.
Zile wao ndio ambao wanategua zile ndege ambazo ni za makombora. Hao ndio ambao wanaenda na kuzitegua kabisa kabla zije. niliona hizo ndege za kivita zikienda,
And then I saw the special operation forces in attack, the strike helicopters going also.
halafu nikaenda zile ndege speciali kabisa katika vikosi, zile helikopta za kulipua.
The Russian invasion was launched with terrifying speed and against a wide range of targets right across the country. A long military build-up around Ukraine's borders finally unleashed by order of the Kremlin. Helicopter gunships, fighter jets, missiles, tanks, convoys of armoured vehicles are all involved in what Russia calls a military operation.
Warzone! Дом летает, охраняет, как комаров.
And then I saw the special operation forces in attack, the strike helicopters going also. And then I saw the special operation forces in attack.
The Lord spoke with me. I see a border dispute. I see a territorial dispute. I see a territorial dispute that is coming. One country trying to take part of another country, trying to annex part of another country, and they were saying, no, because they speak our language. Those people in that area speak our language. Those people in that area, they live like this, like us. They speak our language.
I would like to reiterate that Ukraine is just not our neighboring country. It's an integral part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space. Ukraine, from the beginning and in its totality, has been created by Russia.
In a lengthy televised address, a visibly angry Putin described Ukraine as an integral part of Russia's history, calling eastern Ukraine ancient Russian land, and said he was confident the Russian people would support his decision.
Putin carved up Ukraine, which he described as a long-lost piece of Russia. Let me emphasize once again that Ukraine for us is not just a neighboring country. It is an integral part of our own history, culture, and spiritual space, he said. These are our comrades and relatives.
We've seen Russia's attempts to change the borders of another sovereign country by force. What President Putin has said loudly and clearly, and is now demonstrated by the actions that Russia has taken, is that what this is about for him is Ukraine being absorbed in one fashion or another into Russia. He sees Ukraine as having no independent existence. He wants to reincorporate it into an empire.
Yesterday, Vladimir Putin recognized two regions of Ukraine as independent states. And he bizarrely asserted that these regions are no longer part of Ukraine and their sovereign territory. To put it simply, Russia just announced that it is carving out a big chunk of Ukraine. Last night, Putin authorized Russian forces to deploy into these regions. Today, he asserted that these regions are actually extend deeper than the two areas he recognized, claiming large areas currently under the jurisdiction of the Ukraine government. Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law and demands a firm response from the international community.
I see a territorial dispute that is coming. I see one country trying to annex part of another country, and they were saying, no, because they speak our language. Those people in that area speak our language. Those people in that area, they live like this, like us. They speak our language. So I see a territorial dispute that is coming. I see the UN involvement.
An emergency meeting called at Kiev's request. Members of the UN Security Council condemned Russia's move to recognize independence of breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine. In doing so, the US said Vladimir Putin had torn the Minsk agreement to shreds.
The UN Security Council convened for an emergency meeting in New York last night. Russia's actions were denounced by several council members, including U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield.
He calls them peacekeepers. This is nonsense. We know what they really are. This move by President Putin is clearly the basis for Russia's attempt to create a pretext for a further invasion of Ukraine.
It's too late, my dear colleagues, to speak about de-escalation. Too late. The Russian president declared a war on the record. Should I play the video of your president? Ambassador, shall I do that right now, or you can confirm it? Do not interrupt me, please. Thank you.
Then don't ask me questions when you are speaking. Proceed with your statement.
Anyway, you declared the war. It is the responsibility of this body to stop the war. So I call on every one of you to do everything possible to stop the war.
We are seeing the greatest massing of troops, of missiles, of artillery, and of aircraft capability since 1945. It's clear that the Russian Federation's actions directly threaten this sovereignty, this territorial integrity of Ukraine. We all, each and every one of us, has an obligation to uphold the territorial integrity of other states, to oppose invasions, and to insist on the peaceful resolution of disputes.
Russia's actions are an unprovoked violation of international law, of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and a direct contradiction of the Minsk agreements. Russia's aggression not only threatens all of Ukraine, but every member state and the UN itself. Unfortunately, the fake reality Russia wants to create is already having real consequences for the people of Ukraine and for the world. To date, Russia's war in eastern Ukraine has already killed more than 14,000 people, nearly 3 million Ukrainians, half of whom are elderly people and children, need food, shelter, and other life-saving assistance. And of course, ordinary Russians should be asking how many Russian lives Putin is willing to sacrifice to feed his ambitions. If Russia continues down the road, according to our estimates, create a new refugee crisis, one of the largest facing the world today, with as many as 5 million more people displaced by Russia's war of choice and putting pressure on Ukraine's neighbors. What we can do together today is make clear that Russia will pay an even steeper price if it continues this aggression.
The United Nations Security Council emergency session made it clear that Russia is waging this war on its own.
Russia is isolated. It has no support for the invasion of Ukraine.
President Putin chose to drop bombs on Kyiv, to force families to stuff their lives into backpacks and shelter in subway stations.
But Russia vetoed a demand to immediately withdraw all troops. The measure will now be taken to the full 193-member General Assembly, where only a simple majority is needed to pass.
A special emergency session of the UN General Assembly. All 193 member states will have the opportunity to express their views on the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
The United Nations General Assembly session witnessed it was the first such session in 40 years, a rare emergency session, only the 11th in United Nations history. It opened with the members observing a minute of silence for Ukraine.
Although Russian strikes are reportedly largely targeting Ukrainian military facilities, we have credible accounts of residential buildings, critical civilian infrastructure, and other non-military targets sustaining heavy damage. This escalating violence, which is resulting in civilian deaths, including children, is totally unacceptable. Enough is enough.
The Ukrainian ambassador accused Russia of killing hundreds of Ukrainians. The ambassador added that Russia is mounting an offensive while negotiations were still underway. Ukraine also called Russia's nuclear alert threat madness, quote unquote.
President Zelensky today addressed an emergency session of the European Parliament.
We are fighting just for our land and for our freedom, despite the fact that all large cities of our country are now blocked. Nobody is going to enter and intervene with our freedom and country. And believe you me, every square of today, no matter what it's called, it's going to be called, as today, Freedom Square. In every city of our country. Nobody's going to break us. We're strong. We're Ukrainians. I'm happy that we have unified today, all of you, all the countries of the European Union. But I did not know, but this is the price that we'll have to pay. And it's a tragedy for me, a tragedy for every Ukrainian, tragedy for our state. I mean, this high price, very high price. Thousands of people who were killed, 2 revolutions, 1 war, and 5 days of full-scale invasion.
He received a standing ovation. Compare that response to this. There was a mass walkout from the United Nations Human Rights Council during a speech by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, during which he seemed to give a new justification for the invasion of Ukraine.
Today, the dangers that Zelensky's regime poses to neighboring countries and international security in general have increased significantly after the authorities based in Kyiv started playing dangerous games linked to plans to acquire their own nuclear weapons. We cannot but respond to this real danger.
UN has to take a very strong stance in defense of its own principles, of the UN Charter, because what Russia did to Ukraine is an attack on the UN foundations, on the foundations of our cooperation. It's an attack on all 192 except Russia.
Ukrainian women and Ukrainian children are in deep fear because of bombs and missiles which are going from the sky. And Ukrainian people are desperately asking for the West to protect our sky. We are asking for the no-fly zone. We are saying in response that it will trigger World War III. But what is the alternative, Mr. Prime Minister? To observe how our children are, instead of planes, are protecting NATO from the missiles and bombs? What's the alternative for the no-fly zone? We have planes here, we have air defense system in Poland, in Romania. NATO has this air defense. At least this air defense could shield the Western Ukraine. NATO is not willing to defend because NATO is afraid of the World War III, but it is already started. And these are Ukrainian children who are there taking the hit. You're talking about more sanctions, Prime Minister, but Roman Abramovich is not sanctioned. He's in London. His children are not in the bombardments. His children are there in London. Putin's children are in Netherlands, in Germany, in mansions. Where are all these mansions seized? I don't see that. I see that my family members, that my team members are saying that we are crying. We don't have where to run. This is what is happening, Prime Minister.
Look, I just want to say that I'm acutely conscious that there is not enough that we can do as the UK government to help in the way that you want, and I've got to be honest about that. And when you talk about the no-fly zone, as I said to Volodymyr Zelensky, I think a couple of times, unfortunately the implication of that is that the UK will be engaged in shooting down Russian planes, will be engaged in direct combat with Russia. That's not something that we can do or that we've envisaged. And I think the consequences of that would be truly very, very difficult to control.
A lot of people running and being refugees, pouring their things out into a refugee camp, and they were looking for food, opening cans and eating old soup and whatever. It was such a situation.
Europe is experiencing the fastest growing refugee crisis since World War II. According to the UN, 2 million refugees have left the country, and a spokesperson for UNICEF says that includes 1 million children.
As the Russian invasion intensifies in Ukraine, more than 2 million refugees have now fled the country, according to the United Nations. Ukrainian officials say humanitarian corridors have now opened to evacuate civilians from 5 key cities.
Civilians in Ukraine are desperate to flee the violence, with hundreds killed and hundreds more injured. Nearly 2 million refugees have now crossed the border, almost half of them children.
Hundreds of people took shelter in a subway, really making it a makeshift bomb shelter, taking shelter from those explosions. The Red Cross and the UN's refugee agency saying that they are prepared to help the people trying to flee.
Arriving in neighboring countries with little more than a suitcase. In Romania, in Moldova, where they've built a tent city, women and children finally safe with a warm meal, a place to rest. But as the waves of refugees keep coming, a flood of kindness. Hundreds of volunteers handing out soup, offering rides, and a place to stay.
Take a look at this video of people appearing to pack what they can, leave via bus, train, or car.
In their thousands, they descended on the central railway station, trying to get seats on any train heading south. Guards firing into the air, trying to maintain order. It rarely works with people already traumatized. It was chaotic and desperate, but that is what it's like here now. The fear of the unknown is what's so difficult for the people. Ukraine is holding its breath while the world watches on.
Neighboring countries, Hungary, Poland, Slovakia, Germany, Romania, the Czech Republic, they are all prepared to help those refugees.
A lot of people running and being refugees, pouring their things out into a refugee camp, and they were looking for food, opening cans and eating old soup and whatever. It was such a situation. Opening cans and eating old soup and whatever. It was such a situation.
Hundreds of volunteers handing out soup.
Well, here are his people, protesting in the streets of Moscow just today under the threat of arrest. They're chanting, "No more war." And this is St. Petersburg, hundreds of miles away. As expected and true to historical pattern, the police arrested more than 1,600 protesters across Russia.
This rally was just outside the White House in Lafayette Park. People around the world also showing their support for Ukraine. Demonstrators gathered in central London to denounce the actions of Russian President Vladimir Putin. And a similar scene was in Rome, people taking to the streets, waving flags and banners there. And in the country of Georgia, take a look at this, thousands protesting in the capital of Tbilisi. They're calling for an end to Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Support Ukraine! USA support Ukraine! USA support Ukraine!
This is a deliberate, cold-blooded and long-planned invasion. Despite its litany of lies, denials and disinformation, the Kremlin's intentions are clear for the world to see.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences. This is the beginning of a Russian invasion of Ukraine, so I'm going to begin to impose sanctions in response. Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law, and it demands a firm response from the international community.
President Putin launched the greatest threat to European stability since World War II.
History will judge President Putin as harshly as the world condemns him today. Today, he cements his place in the ranks of the reviled European dictators.
Innumerable missiles and bombs have been raining down on an entirely innocent population. A vast invasion is underway.
We condemn this barbaric attack and the cynical arguments to justify it. It is President Putin who is bringing war back to Europe.
Ukraine says more than 2,000 civilians are confirmed dead, though the real toll could be much higher and only the beginning.
Messiah is coming, blessed people. May you be wise. May your wisdom not fail you on this one. Because remember, eternity is a very long time. Life on this earth is being dismantled. On every occasion when I come before you and speak, you the nations of the earth, you should rush and repent. Run and kneel down and repent and receive Christ and be holy and prepare. Life on the earth, essentially, the Lord is saying He has brought the entire earth under the jurisdiction of the words of the tongue of His true prophets. That is very clear now. This should cause you to take gravity at my words and begin to repent and prepare for the coming of the Messiah. Everything that needs to be spoken, everything that ought to be spoken in preparing the way for the glorious coming of the Messiah, I have spoken. And I've been faithful to speak exactly as God the Father has instructed. May those who have ears repent and prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah. Thank you. Thank you indeed. The Lord bless you.
The news came to Jesus. Please confess. Lazarus is sick and without your help, he will not last. Mary and Martha watched their brother die. They waited for Jesus, but he did not come. They wondered why. The death watch was over. Buried for days. Somebody said he'll soon be here. The Lord's on his way. Martha ran to him, and she cried, Lord, if you had been here, you could have healed him and still be alive. But you're 4 days late, and all hope is gone. Lord, we don't understand why you waited so long. But his way is God's way. It's not yours or mine. And isn't it great when he's 4 days late, he's still on time. Amen.
Well, blessed people, the Lord Jehovah has spoken with me. The Lord has spoken to me about an ocean coming out. I see people running. There is a tsunami that's going to come. That means there's going to be an earthquake that will hit the bottom of an ocean. And I see people running. I see them running for their life. And I see the ocean coming out. And a lot of people running. The tsunami chasing them. And they're running, trying to lock their... He has put me there and I've run for my life with them. Not the way the Lord speaks in His servants. And so, after doing so, then the Lord brought me to stand near that ocean. And He asked me to strike that ocean with the judgment of the Lord. And then, exactly as I saw the ocean chasing them, the ocean began to chase people strictly at the word of my tongue. I passed the judgment of the Lord on that nation, and the ocean came out. Those people are light-skinned people. That area is light-skinned people. So there is a very severe storm that is going to come from the ocean. I do not know whether it's an earthquake strike the bottom of an ocean or it's coming as an ocean storm. But a lot of people are running. I have been running. The Lord put me there. I ran for my life. Together with them, they were trying to lock their shops, lock their houses, and people are running for their lives.
I see a tsunami coming to the earth.
Ninaona tsunami ikija duniani.
I see a tsunami coming to the earth soon.
Ninaona tsunami ikija duniani hivi karibuni.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We begin this morning with breaking news. A tsunami advisory is now in effect for the entire U.S. West Coast and Alaska. This comes after an underwater volcanic eruption overnight in the South Pacific. Look at this video. Incredible satellite images showing a massive ash cloud and shock waves. The eruption happened near the island nation of Tonga. A tsunami, as you can see in this video, has already hit the largest island there, sending waves flooding into the capital, inundating the coastline.
Tsunamis were detected not just in the Pacific, but in the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Mediterranean as well.
The series of dramatic events started when scientists registered a 5.8 magnitude earthquake in Tonga. The next day, scientists recorded a second 4.5 magnitude earthquake. And the volcano exploded.
volcano spewed mushroom-shaped smoke that reached a height of 40 kilometers during its eruption.
Tongans are on the beach to film the first waves hit the coast. They record the tsunami as it surges through streets near the capital Nuku'alofa, catching some people inside, while others scramble for higher ground. Only minutes before the waves arrive, Tongans hear the Hunaha'pai volcano explode.
A second eruption Sunday triggered tsunami warnings in the region.
This woman is in a church in the village of Patanata. She's talking to friends on her phone. They tell her to leave. I can't go, she says. The water's too high outside. The church is right on the beach, and more waves wash inside as she records. Others want to save property. Several try to free up this car on the beach, but then they scramble back as a wave takes the car. These pictures are from the New Zealand High Commission.
Described as the most violent eruption captured on satellite, with the equivalent force of a magnitude 5.8 earthquake. At sea level, the eruption resembled a mushroom cloud, a mass of steam, ash and rock surging out of the ocean 20 kilometres into the air. Within 20 minutes, a rush of waves hit the tiny island nation. Startled locals rushed to find higher ground as water crashed its way through. A river flooding streets and buildings, including this church. Some were caught out by the rising tide. This volcano erupted with a rude shock in the late afternoon local time.
My hand is shaking. What are we gonna do?
There is a tsunami that's going to come. That means there's going to be an earthquake that will hit the bottom of an ocean, strike the bottom of an ocean.
The series of dramatic events started when scientists registered a 5.8 magnitude earthquake in Tonga. The next day, scientists recorded a second 4.5 magnitude earthquake. And the volcano exploded.
An underwater volcanic eruption on Saturday triggered tsunami warnings across the Pacific Rim.
That massive undersea volcanic eruption and the tsunami that followed.
An underwater volcano erupted off the islands of Tonga. It caused an enormous tsunami with waves that travelled as far as New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Peru and the US.
The violent eruption of an underwater volcano near Tonga in the South Pacific triggered a tsunami that furiously hit the coasts of this small nation and set off alarms in other countries.
A tsunami warning has been issued for parts of eastern Australia after an underwater volcano erupted off Tonga in the South Pacific.
This once bustling port, now buried in ash and dust. A lush green neighborhood, now just a sea of gray. The island that surrounded the underwater volcano before its eruption, now seemingly gone. The ash that now covers the islands, creating a crisis.
I see a tsunami coming to the earth soon.
Ninaona tsunami ikija duniani hivi karibuni.
Prelude to a violent eruption. On Friday, the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcano sent plumes of smoke and ash shooting into the sky. In an explosion so powerful, it sent shockwaves around the world.
And from this tiny speck in the Pacific Ocean, shockwaves across the globe. Tsunami warnings were issued for Pacific islands including Fiji, Samoa, Hawaii and Norfolk and Lord Howe Islands, along with the Australian East Coast, Japan, the US and Canadian Pacific Coast. The impact stretched to New Zealand, Ecuador, Peru and Chile. Those shockwaves travelled at more than 1,000 kilometres an hour, reaching almost 7,000 kilometres to Perth, with the sonic boom heard in Alaska, almost 10,000 kilometres away. Tsunami sirens were heard in Ecuador. A 2-metre tidal surge and large waves washing ashore sank a number of boats and damaged others at a marina in New Zealand's far north.
This boat sunk all through the harbour. It's unbelievable.
So fierce was the eruption that tsunami warnings were issued across the Pacific, including in Samoa, Australia, Japan, Hawaii, Chile and the US Pacific coast. Evacuations were ordered in parts of Japan after forceful waves were detected, and Hawaii was slammed by waves of up to 2 feet.
Well, the world has seen and felt the shockwaves of a massive underwater volcano on the doorstep of the Pacific island of Tonga.
This volcanic eruption in Tonga was so powerful that the impact was felt 10,000 kilometers away in Peru. The waves battered boats in Japan and New Zealand. Floods lashed Fiji, Chile and Ecuador too.
From Japan to New Zealand, littered with sunken fishing boats, the powerful waves tossing them like toys.
The underwater eruption was so powerful that it was detected around the world.
Storm stretching from Albury through to Port Macquarie.
We turn now to that rare tsunami advisory for the entire North American West Coast from Alaska to California. And take a look at these images from Pacifica, California, showing waves crashing into the shoreline.
And I see the ocean coming out and a lot of people running, the tsunami chasing them. The Lord has spoken to me about an ocean coming out. I see people running.
This desperate mum then rushes to gather her children.
Everybody get up! Let's go! Just get up! Get out!
Her anxiety rising with every passing second.
The volcano is erupting, it keeps erupting! Get up! Let's go far from here!
And police are asking people to move to higher ground.
In Peru, tsunami waves crashed through a market, washing away stalls and goods, sending panicked shoppers running in fear of what might come next.
January 15, 2022, the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano in the nation of Tonga produced its most powerful eruption ever recorded.
Scientists are starting to take the measure of the monster volcanic eruption that rocked the South Pacific Kingdom of Tonga earlier this month. The high end of the Tonga volcano estimate is equivalent to about 1,200 Hiroshima bombs.
The eruption is one of the loudest eveners to occur in more than 100 years. Another study has revealed that the eruption created ripples in Earth's atmosphere. Researchers said that they had never seen anything similar to these powerful waves ringing through the atmosphere.
It set off a lightning storm that lasted 7 hours and had 400,000 strikes.
The generation of the tsunami was associated with one of the largest volcanic explosions ever recorded. NASA scientists estimate that this explosion was just as powerful as the simultaneous detonation of 10 million tons of TNT.
Volcanic eruption near Tonga more powerful than nuclear bomb. The shock wave produced by the explosion, as well as the unusual nature of the tsunamis it generated, will have scientists studying the event for years.
The eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano was so powerful that space satellites captured an atmospheric shockwave that radiated out from the volcano at close to the speed of sound.
Scientists say Saturday's eruption could be the worst volcanic eruption the Pacific has experienced in decades. Not even the volcanic island itself was spared. Satellite imagery shows it has now largely sunk into the sea.
Crude oil washing ashore after a devastating spill along the Peruvian coast near Lima. The tsunami caused by the volcanic eruption near Tonga on January 15th apparently ruptured an underwater pipeline as a Spanish Repsol oil tanker was unloading crude at a refinery, causing the disaster. An investigation is underway. Authorities say the challenge to contain and clean the estimated 6,000 barrels dumped will be impossible to accomplish. On Thursday, President Pedro Castillo declared the environmental emergency, describing the oil spill as the most worrying ecological disaster in recent times.
Thank you.